Welcome to Employee Termination Tips. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal. And in this particular video, we'll be discussing the importance of taking a very measured tone and listening and being calm and collective when you're in that meeting being terminated. Now, I know it might be very difficult and your emotions might run very high, but it's extremely important that you focus on the task at hand, which is getting through the meeting, not creating any unnecessary negative tension as you depart, but also finding the means to collect information. And in collecting information and getting access to information is extremely critical, especially from the perspective of your lawyer should you pursue an increased termination and severance pay package or an analysis of what is being offered. Because by taking a negative and hostile approach with respect to your former lawyer, your employer, and the individual who's in charge of the termination process, you will have roadblocks raised against yourself, which will impede your ability to necessarily collect information. You might not realize that, but that is what it tends to be. But more importantly, there are the long-term consequences that come from this. And this is by demonstrating hostility or anxiety or over-emotional, you leave that image with your former employer that you are lacking in proper decorum. And yes, it's a result of the situation, but nevertheless, you want to contain and maintain your reputation within the industry and not become the laughingstock or your reputation be adversely impacted through gossip and behind your back conversations. You also want to have the ability for future employers to reference check with your current employer such that they are limited in what they can say. And the last step was that you're professional and courteous, even though you might well be bubbling inside with emotion, either pent-up frustration, anxiety, or despair. Nevertheless, you don't want to reflect that. Also, you might want to seek a referral from this former employer, even though at the time you're not very fond of them. A couple weeks from now, you don't want to give them reason to either cut you down or not put the full story behind the rationale for why they did it. And if you're calm and collective, what they will sort of be forced to do is take a similar approach and simply want to move on, provide a preferable referral, and allow you to move forward. Now, the aspect of how you come back with respect to termination pay and severance pay, if they're underpaying you, that's going to create its own degree of issues, and that should not be something that you consider or you deal with at this point in time, and it might create its own level of animosity between yourselves. But that is something for another day, and it should be something that you first raise with legal counsel to determine how best to proceed. And finally, the aspect of returning to that old job. We're not talking about you being patient and calm, collected because there's a potential for returning to the job. It tends to be very unlikely. Yes, oftentimes people do return to a job, and even more so, employers oftentimes hold out the opportunity to return to the job just to get through this episode being something that they don't want to necessarily be doing and trying to keep you calm and placated. But don't get your hopes overly high about this. Just approach it in a professional manner, accept what it is, do what needs to be done, and proceed calmly and professionally and move forward. Because in most instances, when you are being terminated, the decision has been made, oftentimes from even higher up, and it's absolute and final. And you're not going to change much. So the only thing you can do is make your situation worse, and that is not what you should be doing as you go and step into a termination meeting. Thank you.